The final grades are in and Illinois gets a C- for its infrastructure. That's according to the Illinois section of the American Society of Civil Engineers. The group graded the state on everything from roads to drinking water. And joining us to break down the report card are Eric Varela, Executive Director of the Illinois International Port District, and Andrew Walton, President of the Illinois section of the American Society of Civil Engineers. Welcome both of you to Chicago tonight. I know you're joining us from a room over at Union Station. Andrew Walton, break down. What does a C- score mean for Illinoisans?
That's a great question. And a C- really, this is the same grade that we provided back in 2018. And while it's the same grade, we have made significant strides here in Illinois with investments through Rebuild Illinois and the Federal Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. We saw notable increases in 4 of the categories this year. And then we had one category that saw a decrease in our grade. That was in drinking water. And then also we had a new category that was introduced this year, which was the stormwater category.
All right, and we'll talk about all those things, but I want to talk about the areas you mentioned that improved: roads, transit, dams, and inland waterways. Andrew, what led to those improvements?
Well, as I mentioned, we've seen significant investment here through the Rebuild Illinois capital plan, also in the Federal Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, which led to some significant investment here in Illinois to provide some of that investment for these infrastructure improvements. We've seen increases in the roads category, and we've seen increases, as mentioned, in the dams and inland waterways sections as well. And
some of those grades were pretty low, so almost nowhere to go but up. And Eric, explain the role of the Illinois International Ports and ports in general in Illinois' infrastructure.
Thank you, Paris. Sure. So obviously the ports are integral to the movement of commodities in and through the state of Illinois. I think usually here in the state, most people aren't really thinking about a port, although I think recent supply chain issues on the coasts may have changed that. But obviously the ports are key, particularly when we talk about the report card and the infrastructure here today, because when you think about it, for 70 years, Illinois International Port District has been moving the commodities or bringing those commodities to build the infrastructure: the cement, the steel, the iron, the sand, all those things that we need to improve these scores for infrastructure come to the port, or have companies that call the port home. So in order to keep these grades moving forward, we need to continue to invest in the port and bring those commodities.
Well, one of those grades that did move forward was the inland waterways. So explain how those have improved. And infrastructure experts have talked for years about the importance of inland waterways, the need to boost traffic on inland waterways as a way to reduce pollution and increase commerce. So talk about their improvement.
Certainly. So the first thing you mentioned there is that they are the greenest. Moving freight on water is probably the most environmentally friendly way to do that. So if we're able to increase the barge traffic and the ship traffic on the waterways, we're going to be reducing our environmental impact by having less trucks and less trains and other emissions that way. The improvement, I think, goes back to what Andrew mentioned earlier about the investment that we've seen from the state in certain ports along the waterways. Governor Pritzker, through the Rebuild Illinois program, dedicated $150 million specifically for ports. So I think that goes to the governor's credit to recognize that ports are integral to maintaining Chicago and the state's title as the freight hub of the nation. So when you're able to make those investments into the river system, you could therefore increase traffic and reduce bottlenecks along the supply chain.
And one of the areas that got worse, according to the report card, Andrew Walton, is drinking water. And I assume this was done before the recent federal and state announcements on replacing lead pipes. So what led to that decrease for drinking water?
Well, that's a great question, Paris. Illinois groundwater supply systems are currently being depleted. And the number of community water supply systems that are in violation of U.S. EPA requirements for drinking water compliance programs is up significantly. Additionally, non-revenue water loss due to leaking pipes or water main breaks is also up above the 10% threshold that is put forth by the Illinois Department of Natural Resources.
So a lot of work to do there, and I assume this report was done before the recent federal and state investments in replacing lead water lines. I also want to get to the issue of mass transit. Illinois has the second biggest mass transit system in the country. And here's what Mayor Lori Lightfoot had to say with respect to transit this week.
Yes, of course, we're trying to move towards lowering our carbon footprint. We have an obligation to do that as a city. But meanwhile, back on planet reality, a lot of folks have to drive because we have huge stretches of our city that don't have transportation. We also have a lot of folks who live in a city but have to go to the suburbs for their job. And the only way they can get there is to drive.
Not exactly a ringing endorsement, and mass transit's grade was D+ in this report. How does the state improve upon that, Andrew?
Well, let me first start by saying that state and federal capital funding has suffered for many years in the transit sector. But the Rebuild Illinois and the Federal Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act is making strides to provide that investment. So we're making strides now.
So it's a matter of investment in some of these aging structures here. Eric Varela, the port system, I've done stories on the Chicago ports. It's kind of seen as this kind of hidden economic gem that, if fully utilized, would really boost the economy. What does it take to get the port operating at its full potential?
Well, Paris, you nailed it, right? It is an economic gem. And I think what it needs is to invest in itself. We need to make sure that the existing infrastructure there at the port is being updated in order to continue to be able to receive the current commodities and really looking towards the future as we look at what else is going to be coming down the pike here in terms of goods moving through the state and through the city. I think some of the numbers that are thrown around is we're expecting a 40% increase in freight through the city of Chicago and the state of Illinois. So the port needs to be able to handle that. In order to do that, we need to invest in ourselves. Once we get that, we can start attracting more tenants. We can start attracting new businesses and probably even green technologies. So, and again, we've started that. The governor has started that with infrastructure dollars. Mayor Lightfoot in the city of Chicago is got a $11.7 billion infrastructure plan that's going to help the port. And Cook County is also part of their $1.27 billion 5-year capital investment plan. You know, they're a partner here with us as well.
Right.
So now that we've got the attention of our elected leaders, we're going to be able to make sure we move the port forward.
A lot of potential for improvement there, potential and room for improvement for Illinois' infrastructure overall with that C- grade. All right. Our thanks to Eric Varela and Andrew Walton.
Thank you, Paris.
Thank you, Paris.